Logistics at the moment is being recognised as a key part of the cell and gene therapy supply chain. As we said before, if you can't deliver it, then the patient gains no benefit. But I think it's interesting to look back at the pharmaceutical world, and they still focus on supply chain. It's not just a clinical challenge, it's not just a launch challenge, it's something they have to optimise and drive through efficiencies throughout the life cycle of that drug. But for cell and gene, there are probably three things they really need to think about. So the first one is the development stage. During clinical trials, you're really worried about the data. You've got to treat the patient and you've got to get that data out, because that's going to power your clinical trial. Then as you move into commercial, there are much more economic questions come into play. So do you want the same supply chain that serves your clinical needs as serves your commercial needs? There's then the question around what's the therapy and what's the indication it's treating. At the moment, everything is broadly managed the same way, but you could see a future where a CAR T, for example, that's treating an end-stage cancer patient would always be managed with a gold-plated service. But maybe an allogeneic MSC that's for elective knee surgery might be managed differently. So I think that needs to come into play. And then coming off that, there's the criticality of the sample that you're shipping. So the therapy is always going to need focus. But there are blood samples that come out as well, and the ones that can't just go to pathology. They have to come back to manufacturing due to the bespoke nature of the test, or there might be some know-how in there. But some of those are critical, and they're on the critical path for the therapy. They can't be lost. Some of them are just giving indications to the manufacturing team about what's going on. So do you want to manage that in the same way? So I think if people start to think about those three things, they can manage and optimize their logistics. So for the industry to grow now, if you look through a logistics lens, I think innovation is the key. In the past, that's all been incumbent on the therapy developer, and I think now the logistics companies need to take that on board. And much like companies developing manufacturing platforms and assay platforms, we should develop a logistics platform where all of the solutions are there and companies can simply just bolt on to use the solution as they need it. So to move that forwards, we're looking at both internally and externally. Internally, we've set up a customer services team that's dedicated to cell and gene therapy, so they understand all of the wrinkles about moving things around globally. And then externally, we're doing partnerships with companies like Traxel, and also now developing relationships with Savsu, who have optimized the Dura and are driving down cost and increasing efficiency. And if we can do that, then we can really get more patients treated quicker. If we look back at how logistics has changed within the cell and gene therapy market, I think it's important to see how World Courier see themselves first. It's very much as the connector and connecting the therapy to the patient. So if you look at the autologous diagram, for example, within our white paper, it's the normal circular drawing with a manufacturing slot, a couple of hospitals and a patient in the middle. But there's also that van pictured in there, sat next to an arrow. Now without that van, the therapy doesn't get to the patient. And then if it doesn't get to the patient, then the efficacy and the safety of that therapy is irrelevant, because the patient has gained nothing from it. And I think that's an indication of how things have evolved over time. Initially, it was very much a unit operation. Things were moved across a campus, maybe across a city, and the couriers were called last minute. We're now in a vein-to-vein paradigm where we're really trying to work in partnership with the therapy developers and get involved early and help them optimize their systems. But moving forward, I think it's going to be very much an accountant-to-accountant process, where we're developing logistics platforms which tie in all the reimbursement strategies, the health economics, booking patients, managing manufacturing slots, and then getting the therapy back to the patient to ensure that most people benefit as often as possible.